Yo, what is going on, guys? Hope everyone's having a fantastic day today, or at least trying to. Hopefully everyone is trying to feel better, trying to uplift themselves, and whether you like the team, hate the team, don't want to watch football until the season starts next year, I don't blame you. But there are some updates for the Eagles. Few things I definitely want to go over. Not much of a crazy video today, but definitely some news did come out. And I have some opinions on some players and some stuff like that. So let's get straight into it.
Because I've seen enough horror movies to know any weirdo wearing a mask is never friendly.
So we get the first bit of news from the Philadelphia Eagles. Well, not from the Eagles, but at least Eagles news. It was pretty quick, but Shane Steichen went to Indianapolis, and he finalized his deal. He will be the new head coach for the Colts. So wish him the best of luck. Hopefully they don't take some of our players, because I always think of that when a coach goes to another team. Shane Steichen did a really good job this year, and obviously this was the one coordinator I didn't want to go. I still think with the Philadelphia Eagles going into next season, they have to expand this playbook. I think they have to do more than an RPO read option type system. I understand that caters to Jalen Hurts' skill set, but I think the playbook needs to be expanded. So the rumors are right now for offensive coordinator, it's coming down to Brian Johnson. Nick Sirianni reported that, even after the press conference for the post-game Super Bowl, Nick Sirianni even said he's dipped into getting back to play calling again. And I don't want any part of Nick Sirianni with the playbook in his hands, okay? Because I did not like it in 21 for like the first 6-7 games, and then gave that play calling to Shane Steichen. I really didn't like it because you guys remember we barely ran with Miles Sanders. Really didn't run with him. There was like 5-6 games this past year where we barely ran with him in the first half. Okay, when Nick had the play calling in 21, I did not like his style. And then Hurts was rolling out to his right, and there was obviously Hurts wasn't that was his first full year as a starter last year. Totally different year this year, obviously, but it looks like Nick is contemplating on doing the play calling. So, but still needs an OC regardless. Hopefully he doesn't play call, but other names really haven't been thrown out there so far. So we're just going to have to find out and see. It's very early, but obviously a move should be made within the next couple weeks. I would have to say that we have to wait until we find out who the OC is. Secondly, Gannon went to the Cardinals on Monday for the head coaching job, the interview. I think the Cardinals are kind of looking at Mike Kafka. They're looking at Gannon, and they're looking at they're looking at another coordinator. I forgot who. The name just ran away with me. The Cardinals are going to make a decision within this week. Apparently by tonight or tomorrow we should know. That's what was said by the Cardinals reporters on that. And to be honest, I'm kind of done. As the emotions are as I've calmed down a little bit more, I think they need to make a change at defensive coordinator. I just don't want a promote from within type thing with Denard Wilson. I want some. I don't want new blood. I want something outside the organization, but I want something with, a coach with a good reputation. Someone maybe it's more sophisticated, more older, going to be more aggressive. I don't know who's really available right now. So I'm not really sure. But that's the news for both coordinators as of right now. Shane Steichen, now the new head coach for the Colts. And good luck to him and all that he does over there. He did a fantastic job with this offense. And it was great. So I wish him the best of luck with everything. Now, obviously, the team, right? This is the last day. They go into their locker rooms as a team for the 2022 Eagles for the last time. And it was interesting to see some things that was going on. Interesting enough with Jalen Hurts. Had they all got interviews. Jalen Hurts talked about, someone asked him about the contract extension, what's going to happen. He's like, I'm not even worried about that right now. He says there will be a day when that conversation will be had, but the day is not today. So I don't blame him for that. And then Jalen Hurts also said at the press conference as well, or at his locker conference, he said, "I'm not campaigning to be loved. I'm not campaigning to be hated. Only cares about winning." And that was, man, I love this quarterback, man. Just how he stays so confident in himself, and it's horrible. It's a crappy situation. Just with the Super Bowl in general and what happened, and Hurts is not being bitter about anything and keeping his head up, and I know he's gonna come for revenge and avenge himself again next year into the league, and I think he proved a lot this year to a lot of people that have been bad talking him. And what he's done and how he's turned this team around, and obviously the coaching staff has part in that, but at the same time, your quarterback affects the whole entire team, and never flinched, and brought us to where we need to be, but we just couldn't get it done. And there was a lot of other factors that were in that game. We've talked about it a million times. I could probably make a million videos on it, regardless of what's going on with Jalen Hurts and the fumble, and there's a lot of other things that came into account because Hurts was the least. I think the Super Bowl for Hurts I think it was his best game all year, with over 300 passing yards, 3 rushing touchdowns, whatever it was, and 70 to 80 something rushing yards in general. It's just a fantastic day, and never broke down, never folded. Stayed poised, and unfortunately, you have a whole football team that's got to put in the work, and we didn't get enough production on both sides in the second half, or at least from the defense in the second half. So when it comes down to Jalen Hurts, we'll hear about contract extension. We'll hear about all that stuff. Guy deserves to get paid. I don't care if it's under 50, north of 50. He deserves it all, man. You're not going to find a quarterback like this with the mindset and work ethic. The mentality that this guy has is just off the charts. It checks the boxes. He's checked all the boxes this year. So it's been kind of crazy, man. But Hurts keeping his head up, doing his thing. AJ Brown looked depressed as hell. He was probably the most depressed player that even had a press conference the other day. And AJ Brown was just like, he didn't want to be bothered. I mean, he was like, the worst 48 hours of my life. That's pretty much how it was. And it hurts to go through something like this for players that had such a successful season, and any teams and any players would be going through this. But the one thing I could say about this team after the Super Bowl, even with those post-press conferences right after the game, is that they all took accountability. They didn't shift blame. They didn't do any of that, as some certain fan bases or players, teams that we faced. They took their accountability, didn't shift blame on anybody, didn't shift blame on each other, the coaching, the refs, nothing. They just didn't get it done at the end of the day. There were factors in place, but both teams dealt with the same factors, and that's what it came down to. Interesting enough, the Quez Watkins interview was kind of questioning some things here. Okay. Now, Quez did say, Quez actually humbled himself and said, I had a down year this year. He actually said that. He actually said that, the team's going to be more hungrier next year. Quez Watkins got one more year on his contract, really cheap. And apparently he's had a grade 2 shoulder sprain since week 7, or not week 7, I think week 7, no, or the Titans game, whatever week that was. So he's had a grade 2 sprained shoulder. Now, I made a video the other day saying, after the Washington game, when we weren't undefeated anymore, the fumble, he got up, he got the ball punched out, he fumbled, he scored a touchdown against the Colts, we won by a point, and then he disappeared for weeks. I guess he got hurt, and I don't think any of this was even reported, refresh my memory, because I can't remember that far back sometimes. But you're putting Quez Watkins, that barely plays any snaps, in a really important moment in this game, and you're really trying to get him to make that big play. I don't know how much of a grade 2 shoulder sprain is that painful. I've never sprained my shoulder. I have no idea. But for a guy that's not consistently playing every single week, it questions me why they had him go out for that pass and why they put it really all on him to make that catch. Brilliant throw. Quez just slowed down on the route and totally missed it through his hands. He had a little bit of contact from the back a little bit, but I don't know what's going to happen here. I really don't know. I think at the end of the day, Quez at least has humbled himself that he had a bad year, or a down year, he should say, and dealing with injury, which I had no idea he was dealing with injury for weeks, and that was still going on. And obviously playing on a sprained shoulder, and that's probably the problem. They had him on a snap count, or if he started not feeling great, he probably, only had a snap count because probably a pain tolerance level or something like that. I mean, Alshon Jeffrey played with a torn rotator cuff the Eagles Super Bowl year in 17. I don't even know how you would have never noticed that. So how much that affected him, I have no idea. Probably it did. But do you blame the coaching staff for putting Quez in a position like that, or is it just he's just not good enough? I don't know. I think they have to give him some competition this offseason. I don't know if they're going to look into a free agent wide receiver that's going to be very cheap. Like I said, it's not going to be that hard to find a number 3. I think Howie could find a guy easily, and I think whatever guy they could find is going to be very happy to what they're going to have around him on this offense with A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and Dallas Goedert. And the quarterback that's throwing to him. So getting a number 3 is not going to be hard to do. Okay. I think a lot of players are going to want to play for this team going into next year. I think we're going to attract a lot of free agents. So I'm not saying you're going to pay somebody a lot of money, but, a quality free agent that's not going to even be a mid-tier price. A guy that's going to be a role playing in a really good group that's going to benefit from what you have on the outside and what you have in the tight end, Dallas Goedert, and benefiting from the quarterback. That could extend plays and get and get guys open, which is great. So I don't know what the answer is for Quez going to next year. I really don't. I think they got to bring in some competition at that spot and see what happens there. And I think that's what you do. Is there anybody on the Eagles roster right now that can compete with Quez Watkins? Probably not. Probably not as of right now. So that should be interesting. So I kind of want to talk about that because that one I didn't even know he was hurt for that long, which is kind of crazy. Was he in a lot of pain during the Super Bowl? I have no idea. I think he only got thrown the ball 2 times in that game, and that was pretty much it. Unless I'm wrong, I'm trying to remember, but I think that was pretty much it with 2 pass attempts to Quez Watkins, only 1 completed, obviously. And then, you go into the cornerback room. Bradberry kind of joked around a little bit. He kind of said, all jokes aside, I won't play for cheap, like as a joke. But, he's going to want to get paid. That's just, and look, the market for cornerbacks right now is like $20 million a year. And for a fact the Eagles are not going to pay Bradberry that much. It is not going to happen. Like maybe it's like 10 to 12 million. I could see maybe that happening, but sometimes these players want to go to another team and know that the team is bad, but just getting that payday is just all that matters to these guys. But he loves playing for this city. A guy that, before this year was with the Giants, gave up over 800 yards receiving. He hasn't been a Pro Bowler since 2020. And, we didn't know what we were going to get from James Bradberry this year, but obviously, when you have good offensive weapons and it really, both sides, iron sharpens iron, the practices really help. OTAs, training camp, you go down to it, that's what happens. So, Bradberry's going to be a big question mark going into this whole entire offseason, which I think is going to question a lot more things. He says he wants to come back. He says, I'm open to coming back to Philadelphia, but obviously it's going to cost a price to do that unless he doesn't care about the money and he cares about getting paid, but not being the highest paid cornerback in the league, which he's probably not going to get, but he definitely deserves it. Definitely deserves it. You know what I mean? Or maybe I worded that wrong. And he probably deserves to get a lot of money. Probably not the highest, maybe the highest paid, but one of the highest paid at least. But I think another question you have to kind of ask yourself is, big play Slay. That really hasn't been playing as big play Slay. I mean, I don't know what happened. I mean, I'm not saying that Slay is gone off the handle a little bit, but I felt like they were really using him to shadow number one receivers. Really, I think a good example was that Vikings game when he was on Justin Jefferson and really shut him down. And I felt like after that week, they kind of strayed away from that. And, he wasn't getting turnovers. They just kept him on one side of the field. They really wasn't. You got to you have to give Slay something to do. You have to just let him have more focus. Sometimes when you just leave a guy on the same side of the field all game, there was times where he gave up some really easy receptions. Sometimes that really bothered me. Sometimes, it was Gannon's fault on top of it because sometimes these corners would be 8 to 9 yards back. And, I'm watching the Washington game that we lost the first game, that we weren't undefeated after that. I mean, literally like Terry McLaurin is running 10 yards at him and Slay has to react to a guy while standing still to a guy that's running 100% full speed on him. He's not going to be able to react. And so I think it comes down to the coaching aspect too, because you got two valuable corners. There was games where you have these guys way too far off. Play some press. I mean, you don't got to go crazy, but play some press, do something, get physical with these receivers, cause them to, maybe get them off their route, not make it too easy. But there was times where Gannon made it way too easy for what you have at the cornerback position. There was no excuse for it. So what do you do here? I mean, to jump into the draft right now, I'm not going to get into all that, but we got to see what the Eagles do in free agency first and who they're re-signing first before we know what they're even going to do in the draft. But if you're going to go into the draft and go get a cornerback, you got to do it in the first round. I mean, you kind of have to at this point because Slay's got one more year left on his contract. If you sign Bradberry to a big deal, or something, you extend Bradberry for a few years and Slay's still here, then you have to go draft a cornerback next year. Now, there has been rumors that maybe the Eagles will draft a corner in the first round. You sit him as a red shirt for 1 year, but does that even make any sense? A lot of Eagles fans are going to be pissed. I'm not drafting a guy in the first round to have him sit and learn. It's already enough Nakobe Dean had to sit, behind these linebackers. They had a lot more experience in front of him. I totally get it. But very excited that the linebacker group is going to change by next year. We'll talk that in another video with the linebackers, definitely. But when it comes down to big play Slay, that hasn't been playing as big play Slay. There might be a decision the Eagles will have to make. I don't know if they got rid of Slay, I don't know how I would feel about it because I think, like I said, I think part of Slay not playing up to par was part of the coaching, and yet Slay looks sluggish at times this year. And I don't know if it's a downfall. Is he just getting too old now? Does he not have it anymore? I think he's still a good player in a defense, there's no doubt. But in our time of need right now where the Eagles have to get younger, and Bradberry is significantly young, so he's still a young corner right now. But when it comes down to, Slay, I don't know. I don't know what the right decision is. I'm still thinking about it every single day of what they should do with Slay after this year. Should they try to trade him and at least try to get some draft capital with one more year left on his deal? I have no idea. But I feel like this is the year, or going into the 2023 season this year, this offseason, this draft, I think this is the year where the Eagles have to really, not only because Maddox is made of glass right now and I can't trust him staying healthy, I think he's got one more year left on his deal, but at the same time, you have to add more bodies to cornerback regardless going into this offseason. You have to. You can't, because I feel like if one starter goes down, you dealt with Josiah Scott, and it was just a nightmare after that. They have to add more bodies. They have to add more competition. And if you're going to draft a corner in the first round, I wouldn't expect Bradberry or Slay to be in the building as of right now. I think that's what's really important. I don't want to waste a year of having Slay here for another year And then you only have 2 second-round picks. Now, we don't know what the picks are going to look like in 24, so we have no idea. But the Eagles have got to get younger at that position, a lot younger at that position. There's no doubt about it, because I'm not dipping in free agency. Free agency for a cornerback is horrible business. They're one of the most expensive positions, excluding quarterback. They're one of the most expensive positions. And I just don't want to put money like that into a guy. Like, I want a homegrown talent. I want someone the Eagles draft to be here. And I think that's what they have to do. And I'm not saying I agree with trading Slay or anything like that, but something's got to be done here between this year and next year. But I know for this year we have the picks to get it done. Next year in 24, we have 2 second-round picks. God knows what we're going to have more picks in 24. If they're able to get another first somehow, who knows what's going to happen. But this is another big decision that has to get made. Otherwise, we're going to be stuck. Remember, for years, we were stuck at the corner position and always getting free agents and signing it from the Chip Kelly era to Doug era to now. Like, you haven't really drafted a guy, young and play him for 4 years with a 5th-year option. I want to get a player like that. But like I said, we don't know what's going to happen. And if Bradberry's the one that goes and Slay stays, they still got to draft a corner regardless, because they're not going into free agency for a cornerback. So they might be handcuffed at this point of what they're going to do. So you guys let me know about that whole situation, cornerback-wise. And look, Bradberry, he goes anywhere, I'm not going to be mad. Like, he deserves to get paid. Top 5 corner of yards allowed this year. Just fantastic. Something I really didn't expect statistically from him at all. Like, I thought he was going to be a good piece for us, because he's not going to be that number 1 guy like he was with the Giants. He's the number 2, so a little bit less on his plate. But like I said, when it comes to Slay, I think part of it was the coaching. I think part of it was just him not being press on these receivers and not getting in their face and being physical and not shadowing him on the number 1 receiver in a lot of games. Yeah, there were some games they might have made some adjustments to move Slay on the best guy after damage was already done to this defense. But, it's pick your poison with it. And I think Gannon hasn't really treated Slay right. And I think Slay hasn't really... I thought Slay had partially a good year, a pretty good year, but there were times where he just looked out of it, and that was just one of the problems I've had. So cornerback position is going to be very interesting going for this, into this year. So other than that, I mean, that's pretty much it. I mean, we've pretty much covered everything until I find out more news on everything else. I don't know what's going on with this team going forward. But like I said, the offseason is just starting. We're going to find out, new offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, if Gannon is gone. And then we have 10 free agents for the Philadelphia Eagles right now. So, there's already people thinking, the Eagles have no cap and this. Like, let me tell you something. Howie Roseman, executive of the year, knows what he, what he's going to do. He knows how to move money around. He knows how to trade. He knows how to do a lot. Obviously, the first, besides Jalen Hurts' contract, the first contract I am signing immediately is going to be Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. And I forgot I was going to talk about this. I totally forgot I was going to talk about this at all. So Chauncey is definitely going to get paid. I'm hoping he does. I mean, you gave up a 4th and a 7th. I think it was a 4th and a 6th, a 4th and a 7th for him, a monster trade. He's got that. He just has that Philly attitude. He's got the swagger. Even that hit on Pacheco the other day, that was just crazy ridiculous, man. Like, that guy is just, he's all energy, and I love that, from him. Chauncey could play multiple positions from nickel to safety, which is kind of nuts, so he could play both positions. So I think you have to do it. He's got a lot of value to him. Imagine if you could build around that even more, what this team could even do next year, which is great. Give Reed Blankenship some competition. Give Marcus Epps is a free agent, so we don't know what's going to happen with him. Depending if the Eagles feel like, we should re-sign him just for depth purposes. I don't know. But, I think the safety position is going to look a little different going into next year as well, next offseason. So it should be interesting. So, sorry I didn't have a picture up before. I knew I was forgetting one thing to put in this video, and I thought maybe I was overthinking it. But Chauncey Gardner-Johnson is my first guy with getting signed. There's no doubt about it. So, other than that, guys, that's pretty much it. I hope you guys try and enjoy the rest of your week. I know it's been a crappy week, so I totally get it. Just enjoy yourself. And that's it. We'll have more updates for the Philadelphia Eagles in the next, the rest of the week this week, and whatever happens, I'll report it. So appreciate everybody for the 2022 season, supporting the channel, liking the videos, and commenting on everything, and just enjoying this brilliant ride. But obviously, we just couldn't get the job done. So other than that, let me know what you guys think. See you guys on the next one. SHAKESQUAD up, follow slide. Peace out, guys. Peace.